What if the biggest threat to Singapore isn't another port or a canal, but a straight line across Thailand? Thailand is finalizing plans for a $28 billion infrastructure project that could change how global trade works. How? By building around geography entirely. 2 massive ports, a high-speed corridor connecting them, and a quiet bet that the next decade of geopolitics won't look anything like the last. This is not about moving containers faster, but about who controls the choke points that matter. There's a stretch of water between Malaysia and Indonesia that most people have never heard of. It's 550 miles long, at its narrowest point, just 1.5 miles wide, and every single day, roughly 30% of the world's maritime trade squeezes through it. The Strait of Malacca handles more than 94,000 ships every year. That's one vessel every 6 minutes, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. If you're in Europe and you bought something made in China, it probably came through Malacca. If you're filling up your car in Tokyo or Seoul, that fuel almost certainly transited this strait. About 80% of China's oil imports flow through here. That's roughly 8 million barrels per day, passing through a gap barely wider than a highway. Think about that for a second. The world's second largest economy gets 4/5 of its energy through a waterway so narrow you could see across it on a clear day. Now here's the uncomfortable part. There's no alternative. Ships traveling between the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean have 2 choices. Go through Malacca or sail thousands of miles south around Indonesia and Australia, adding weeks to the journey and burning millions in extra fuel costs. For container ships, oil tankers, and bulk carriers, Malacca isn't just convenient, it's unavoidable. Naval strategists call it a choke point. That's a polite way of saying it's a geographic vulnerability that can't be fixed. If something goes wrong in the Strait of Malacca, a collision, a blockage, political instability, or worse, global supply chains don't slow down, they stop. Singapore built its entire economy around this reality. The city-state sits right at the southern entrance to the strait, perfectly positioned as the world's transshipment hub. Containers arrive from Europe, get sorted, and head to Asia. Goods from China get consolidated and sent west. It's a geographic lottery ticket that's paid off for generations. But geographic advantages have a weakness. They only matter as long as geography matters. And that's where Thailand comes in. The idea of cutting through Thailand isn't new. For more than 3 centuries, engineers and politicians have dreamed of digging a canal across the Kra Isthmus, the narrow part of Thailand, connecting the mainland to the Malay Peninsula. The concept is beautifully simple. Slice through about 30 miles of land and create a direct waterway between the Andaman Sea and the Gulf of Thailand. If it worked, ships wouldn't need the Strait of Malacca at all. They'd just sail straight through Thailand. The French considered it in the 1600s. The British studied it in the 1800s. Japan explored it during World War II. Thailand commissioned feasibility studies in the 1970s and again in the 2000s. Chinese investors proposed it as recently as 2015. Every single time, the answer was the same: too risky. The environmental damage would be catastrophic. You'd be splitting a country in half, creating new ocean currents, destroying ecosystems, and displacing hundreds of thousands of people. The political risks were even worse. Southern Thailand already faces instability. Building a canal that literally divides the nation would hand separatist movements a symbolic victory and create permanent security nightmares. And then there's the cost. Estimates ranged from $20 billion to $30 billion for construction alone, before considering decades of maintenance, dredging, and around-the-clock security. But the biggest problem wasn't technical, it was strategic. A canal would be visible, permanent, and impossible to control in a crisis. Any country with a navy could blockade it. Any regional conflict could shut it down. You'd be trading one choke point for another, except this one would be sitting in your own territory. Singapore knew this, China knew this, the United States knew this. Everyone understood that a Kra Canal was a fantasy that sounded brilliant on paper, but collapsed under scrutiny. So Thailand stopped talking about it. But they didn't stop thinking about the problem. Because the real question was never, how do we dig through Thailand? The question was, how do we bypass Malacca without splitting our country in half? And in 2023, Thailand answered it. The Thai government calls it the Landbridge project. That name doesn't capture what it actually is. Imagine 2 massive deep-sea ports, built from scratch on opposite sides of Thailand, one on the Andaman Sea coast, facing the Indian Ocean, the other on the Gulf of Thailand, facing the Pacific. Now connect them with a high-capacity freight rail system and a 6-lane highway, spanning roughly 87 kilometers across the country. Containers arrive at the western port. They're offloaded, placed on trains or trucks, moved across Thailand in a matter of hours, and reloaded onto ships waiting at the eastern port. No canal, no water, just infrastructure. It's a canal without digging. The scale is staggering. The western port at Ranong is projected to handle up to 19 million 20-foot containers per year. The eastern port at Chumphen will handle about 14 million. Combined, that's more cargo capacity than the entire port of Los Angeles processes annually. The rail system will be designed for double-stacked freight trains running continuously. The highway will be built to handle convoy-level truck traffic. Both will move goods between coasts faster than most people commute to work. Total cost, $28 billion, about 997 billion baht. But here's what makes this different from the canal dream. Thailand isn't asking, can we compete with the Strait of Malacca on speed? They're asking something smarter. Can we give ships a reason to choose us? And the answer is yes, if the reason isn't speed. It's certainty. Let's be clear, the landbridge won't be faster than Malacca. A ship sailing through the strait takes about 24 hours from entry to exit. The landbridge will take longer, probably 36 to 48 hours when you factor in unloading, transport across Thailand, and reloading. So why would anyone use it? Because speed isn't the only variable that matters anymore. What if there's a collision in the strait? What if piracy flares up again? What if tensions rise between Malaysia and Singapore? What if a major power decides to flex its navy in the region? Suddenly, an extra 12 hours doesn't seem like a big deal, especially if it means guaranteed passage through sovereign Thai territory with no risk of blockade, delay, or geopolitical complications. This is the logic that makes the landbridge work. It's not trying to be better in normal times, it's trying to be essential in uncertain times. And uncertain times are becoming the norm. Thailand is betting that shipping companies, energy suppliers, and logistics giants will pay a premium for optionality, not because they'll use the landbridge every time, but because they want the choice. Think of it like insurance. You don't buy fire insurance because your house is burning down today. You buy it because you don't want to be helpless if it does. The landbridge is insurance for global trade. But there's another layer here. The project isn't just about creating an alternative route. It's about creating economic gravity. Once those ports are built, they won't just handle containers. They'll attract manufacturers, warehouses, logistics hubs, and industrial zones. Thailand becomes a connector economy, goods flowing in from India, Africa, and the Middle East on one side, then out to China, Japan, and Southeast Asia on the other. The Thai government is already planning special economic zones around both ports, tax incentives for manufacturers, simplified customs, free trade agreements tailored to make the landbridge irresistible for companies looking to diversify their supply chains away from China-centric models. This isn't just a logistics project, it's nation-building through infrastructure. The timeline is ambitious, but deliberate. Right now, Thailand's Office of Transport and Traffic Policy and Planning is finalizing tender documents, a process that takes about 5 to 6 months. Bidding will open in 2026. Construction could start the same year. The first phase is expected to be operational by 2030. Several major players have already expressed interest. China Harbour Engineering, DP World from Dubai, Mediterranean Shipping Company, Evergreen, Gulf Development from Thailand. Even shipping giants that have built their entire business models around Singapore are quietly watching. Because they understand what's really happening here. Singapore isn't panicking. Not publicly, anyway. But if you're sitting in a government office overlooking Marina Bay, the landbridge isn't just another regional infrastructure project. It's an existential challenge to the foundation of your economy. Singapore's power comes from one thing: inevitability. If you're a shipping company moving goods between Asia and Europe, you don't choose Singapore because it's the best port in the world. You choose it because you have to. Every major route funnels through the Strait of Malacca, and Singapore sits right there, perfectly positioned as the transshipment hub where cargo gets sorted and redistributed. It's not about quality, it's about geography. But the land bridge changes the equation. Suddenly, Singapore isn't inevitable anymore. There's a credible alternative one that offers certainty, sovereign control, and government-backed infrastructure in an era of increasing geopolitical volatility. Here's the part that should worry Singapore. They don't need to lose 50% of their traffic to feel the impact. Even 10% to 15% would create a cascade. Lower volumes mean higher per-container costs. Higher costs mean shipping companies start negotiating harder or looking at other hubs. Malaysia's Port Klang, Vietnam's Kai Mep, even Indonesia's new ports. Competition intensifies. Profit margins shrink. Suddenly, the entire business model that turned Singapore into one of the world's wealthiest nations starts looking fragile. Here's the nightmare scenario for Singapore. The land bridge doesn't need to replace Malacca. It just needs to exist. Because once it's built, every shipping company has leverage. Lower your fees, or we'll route through Thailand. Speed up customs, or we'll switch ports. Give us better terms, or we'll take the land bridge. Singapore has spent decades as the indispensable middleman. The land bridge threatens to make them negotiable. Now, Singapore isn't going down without a fight. They're doubling down on automation, expanding port capacity, and positioning themselves as the premium option. Faster customs, better connectivity, superior logistics networks. But there's only so much you can do when someone builds a new road around you. And here's what makes this even more complicated. Thailand isn't doing this to hurt Singapore. They're doing it because someone else desperately needs this route to exist. The land bridge isn't a Chinese project. Let's be very clear about that. This is a Thai initiative, funded through public-private partnerships, built on Thai soil, and controlled by the Thai government. But it's also the exact project China would build, if they could, without the political baggage of actually building it themselves. China has a Malacca problem, and it's getting worse every year. China imports roughly 10 million barrels of oil per day. About 80% of that roughly 8 million barrels comes by sea through the Strait of Malacca. That's not just an economic vulnerability, it's a strategic nightmare. Chinese strategists have a name for this, the Malacca dilemma. It's not hypothetical. It's the single biggest weakness in China's entire economic and military strategy. Now imagine a crisis scenario: Taiwan, the South China Sea, a naval standoff with the United States. In any of those situations, the US Navy could position itself near Malacca and effectively cut off China's energy supply without firing a shot. China doesn't need a blockade to happen. They just need the threat to be credible. And right now, it absolutely is. China has spent the last 2 decades trying to solve this problem. They've built pipelines through Myanmar and Pakistan. They've invested in ports across the Indian Ocean, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, Djibouti. They've pushed for overland trade routes through Central Asia. The Myanmar pipeline alone can handle about 440,000 barrels per day. That sounds significant until you realize China imports 10 million barrels daily. Even if you add every pipeline China has built or planned from Russia, Kazakhstan, Myanmar, Pakistan, you're looking at maybe 3 to 4 million barrels per day of overland capacity. That still leaves 6 to 7 million barrels per day coming by sea. Through Malacca, what China really needs is a maritime alternative that doesn't depend on U.S. controlled choke points. And that's exactly what the land bridge offers. Oil tankers arriving from the Middle East can offload on Thailand's western coast at Ranong, move the cargo across the country by pipeline or truck, and reload onto ships heading to China, completely bypassing the Strait of Malacca and any potential US naval presence there. It's not faster, it's not cheaper, but in a crisis, it's a lifeline. And here's the brilliant part. China doesn't need to own it. They don't even need to fund it. All they need is for it to exist. Thailand gets the infrastructure, the economic zones, and the long-term revenue from port operations. China gets the strategic optionality, and because it's a Thai project, it doesn't trigger the same geopolitical alarms that a Chinese-built canal would. This is infrastructure as statecraft. Thailand builds the bridge, China gets the insurance policy, and everyone can pretend it's just about economics. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi visited Thailand in January 2024, specifically to discuss the land bridge. Chinese delegations from Kunming and Chengdu visited the project sites in Ranong and Chumphon. China Harbour Engineering, China's largest infrastructure developer, has expressed formal interest in bidding. The signals are clear. China sees this project as critical, not because they control it, but because they don't have to. But there's something deeper happening here, something that goes beyond China and Thailand. Here's what makes the land bridge so significant. Nothing dramatic has to happen for it to change everything. No war, no blockade, no crisis, just infrastructure. But once it's built, the map changes. Permanently. Shipping companies suddenly have a choice they didn't have before. Energy suppliers have a backup route. Manufacturers have a new logistics hub. And every country that depends on the Strait of Malacca now has to factor in a world where Malacca isn't the only option. The land bridge doesn't replace the strait. It just makes it less inevitable. And in geopolitics, inevitability is everything. Think about the Suez Canal. When it opened in 1869, It didn't destroy the route around Africa. Ships still go that way when they need to, but Suez made that route optional. And that optionality shifted power toward Egypt, toward European colonial powers, and away from anyone who controlled the Cape of Good Hope. The Panama Canal did the same thing. Before it existed, ships traveling between the Atlantic and Pacific had to go around South America, a journey of weeks. The canal didn't eliminate that route. It just made it obsolete for most commercial purposes. The land bridge is playing the same game, except it's a canal built on land, using trains and trucks instead of water. And the timing couldn't be more deliberate. We're entering an era where supply chain resilience matters more than supply chain efficiency. Companies don't just want the fastest route anymore. They want the most reliable one. They want alternatives. They want redundancy. The COVID pandemic proved this. The Ever Given blocking the Suez Canal proved this. The Red Sea attacks proved this. Geopolitical risk isn't theoretical anymore. It's priced into every shipping decision. The land bridge offers exactly what this moment demands. Now, here's where it gets interesting. This project is still facing real challenges. There's no major shipping line that's committed to using it yet. Local fishing communities in Ranong are protesting, worried about their livelihoods, their coastline, and being displaced by massive port construction. Environmental groups are raising concerns about marine ecosystems. And there's investor skepticism. Building a $28 billion project with unproven demand is risky. The financial returns depend entirely on shipping companies actually choosing to use it, instead of just sailing through Malacca like they always have. But Thailand is betting that geopolitics will solve the demand problem for them. As US-China tensions increase, as naval posturing in the South China Sea intensifies, as the world fractures into competing blocks, the value of the land bridge goes up. Not because it's cheaper or faster, but because it exists outside the choke point. And if the land bridge works, if it proves that you can bypass a choke point with infrastructure instead of water, other countries will start thinking the same way. What if Mexico built a land bridge to compete with the Panama Canal? What if Egypt expanded overland freight routes to complement Suez? What if other countries started looking at their geography not as a fixed constraint, but as a problem that infrastructure can solve? The land bridge isn't just a Thai project, it's a proof of concept. And the concept is this: geography isn't destiny anymore. Routes can be moved, power can be rerouted. You just need to be willing to build it. So what happens when construction actually starts? Does Singapore lose its crown? Does China get its backup plan? Does global trade quietly reroute through Thailand while the world isn't paying attention? Or does something else happen, something no one saw coming? The Suez Canal was supposed to connect Europe and Asia. It ended up becoming the trigger for wars, coups, and blockades that reshaped the Middle East. The Panama Canal was supposed to boost American trade. It ended up giving the United States control over an entire hemisphere. The land bridge is being sold as an economic project, but infrastructure is never just about economics. In the next video, we break down 4 mega airports worth over $50 billion and why they matter far more than people think. That's next.